Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Billionaire Punjabi Boys. We've got our first billionaire guest, Asim Ali. He has done over $2.5 billion in volume, which is mortgages. Welcome, Asim Ali. How are you?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
How do you feel when someone says you're playing in the $1 billion game?
Honestly, it feels still the same
Still the same?
as, I think I should applaud myself more than I do, or I should celebrate more. But I think I always look at guys who are ahead of me. I say this all the time, which is true. There's people who've done way, way more in the mortgage space. In the brokerage space, my brokerage has done over 2.5 billion. My team has collectively done over a billion, right? And I look at guys who are ahead of me at the curve. Once I surpass them, that's the moment of celebration for me.
Who is your biggest competition? Who you want to pass? Who do you think?
I mean, I won't drop some names here, to give some ego boost to some of the guys, but there are a couple of guys.
Give me a number that you want to beat.
I would say probably, when I become the number one broker in the country, or my brokerage becomes, takes the top spot, which is probably 2-3 years away. I'm very confident on that. We're going to achieve that. That's where I can give myself a pat at the back.
I was trying to find something on you on the internet, and I stumbled upon on one article. It had 75 top brokers in Canada, and on number 9 was Asim Ali for 2022 year. Is that correct? Or
yeah, I've been on that list since I came into the industry.
Yeah,
I was fortunate enough, a few months in, and I would say close to a year into it or a little over that, I made that list. Since that point, I've just, moved up in ranks.
So I want to know your background. So start from where were you born and your high school journey till grade 12. Tell me where were you born and all that.
Yeah, good question. I was born in, Pakistan. I was born in a city called Sahiwal, which is about, an hour drive from Lahore. I went to a school called Divisional Public School, DPS. From there, I went
DPS?
to DPS.
Same school.
Yeah, same school. Wow. So you guys, so there's DPSs everywhere, I guess, right? Yeah. And from there, I went to Government College Lahore.
Yeah.
We moved to Lahore, and at the age of, I was in my teens, right? I just finished my grade 12 and moved to Canada at that point.
So you moved in your teens. At what age exactly did you move
I
to
believe
Canada?
I was 17 and some months, 17 year old.
17 years old. With your family or just alone?
With my family.
With your family.
Yes.
So you guys migrated over here.
Of course.
So what city did you move to first?
I came to actually Vancouver City.
Vancouver.
Vancouver City, and lived in Vancouver, proper Vancouver for about, I would say, 8-9 years.
Yeah. So you were 17, and I'm assuming you did your grade 11, grade 12 here?
I did my grade 12.
Tell me a bit about high school. What were you doing? Were you the backbencher or were you the topper?
It's funny you said that. I was actually the backbencher and the topper. Yeah. So I was kind of the guy who the teachers would talk about is intelligent, but at the same time would say that he's consuming his, energy and resources into, the not the good stuff. So I still managed to be, do really well academically, but still hang out with the bad boys per se.
So we are both brown. I have a question for you. Always, most of the brown families, parents have a lot of expectations from a son. What did your parents wanted you to become when you were an adult?
100%. So, my parents had a lot of expectations too. They didn't set sort of a, they didn't want, it wasn't like they had told me that we want to see you as a doctor.
Yeah.
But they definitely wanted me to, continue, finish my studies, and then sort of choose my career path.
Yeah.
But not be, in the demographics and things, the kind of friends I was hanging out with.
Got it. Were they doing business back in Pakistan or were they?
Yeah. So my dad was in business, right?
Okay.
And, mom she was a homemaker.
Yeah.
So, but, she came from a very strong background as well.
Yeah.
Her parents were in business. Some were in politics, things like that.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, a lot of business family members on my dad's side and my mom's side. So that had a lot of influence.
And you moved here and in grade 12, let's say, what were you planning to do? What did you wanted to do with your life? What were your goals?
Honestly, as you know, when our parents are, in the culture we were brought up,
Yeah.
still our parents are alive, right? Like,
Yeah.
our fathers are alive. We sometimes don't have to do much,
Yeah.
and we just get to enjoy life. So
Yeah.
that's what was really happening. You receive some pocket money per
Yeah.
month. Okay, so $500 was a lot back then, right? And you have a car which is paid off, and you drive around. So you're a little bit blessed, of course.
Yeah.
Not you're not coming from the Donald Trump family where
Yeah.
they're going to give you a $10 million loan, but
Yeah.
it was enough for me to get by. I didn't have any bills to pay.
Yeah.
So, no, to answer your question, there wasn't much, goals and aspirations I had at that time.
And what age are we talking about? At
We're
this
talking
time?
about 17, 18.
17, 18.
Yeah.
And what was your first job? Did you ever do any job in Pakistan?
No. So my first job was actually, I was driving with my dad, and I saw Superstores hiring
Okay.
in the, and I didn't know what the job required.
Yeah.
So I made a resume, applied for the job, and it's actually, a very labor intensive job.
Yeah.
And I remember, when I went in, they hired me right on the spot, and they told me I'm going to be unloading containers. Right. So it was, it's fun because my dad told me that you shouldn't go into this role, right?
Yeah.
It's so tough on you. It's going to be tough on you. And I said, no, I want to do it. And he said,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'll support you then if you want to do it. And it started off at 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
And the job will be done by 11. But within those 6 hours, I remember the first day I went to work, I came home, I went to sleep around 1. And I woke up the next morning, at 2 a.m. or something right before going to work. So it was that much labor intensive. I did it for a very short while just to sort of, eventually I gave up on it.
What did you learn from that job?
That I'm not built for, labor intensive jobs.
Got it. And after that, before quitting that job, did you had any plan where to go?
Not really,
Okay. And then after that, what spark came what was the next job after that?
Yeah, so I think by the age of 21, 22, I
Okay.
realized that, this is not a life for me with my, parents sort of, guiding me and now realizing some of the things because, of course, sometimes you don't share everything right as you're growing up.
Yeah.
And once they start learning and I start realizing that, this is not who we are, and I start seeing some things as people not being as straightforward and honest as they perceive, and things they say don't mean anything. I wanted to get away from that lifestyle. So that sort of was my why, that I wanted to now finally really pursue my career and wanted to get away from that life completely and wanted to be away from that sort of type of friends.
When did you decide to change your surroundings?
Yeah, I would say about 21, 22,
21,
right?
22.
3-4 years into the country, yeah.
And then after that, what were you doing?
Yeah, so I picked up a job, just looked up online. There was a job posting. Craigslist was huge back in the days.
Yeah.
And I saw a job posting from a collection agency as a collection officer.
Okay.
I didn't know what I had to do. Kind of, the job title and the description sort of put it out there that I'm going to be on the phone and calling, people to collect debt. So I became a debt collector.
Debt collector. So what type of debt were you collecting?
Oh, I mean, all sorts of debt, right? I started on the floor, moved up pretty quickly, but we were collecting student loan debt, where there was, cell phone debt. We called it retail. There was all sorts of debt, right? And typically a collection agency would have.
And then was that a commission-based job, or were you getting a salary from it?
Yeah, so it was, base plus salary, but I always... because I had that sort of go-getter type of attitude right from that age, or even before. That's why I was trying to fit in different things and trying to see what's going to work. I did extremely well, actually, even at that age. My base, I made way more than what my base was just in commissions alone each month.
In your first year, how was the business like?
It was great. It was great. Debt collection was a huge thing. I started off as... someone who doesn't know the industry to within a month, beating everyone number in my location.
Yeah.
Meaning, the office we were in, and there were about 50 to 60 employees there.
Yeah.
So, I was outperforming everyone. The next role of team lead went into
Yeah.
the next role of managing coach, and now, I'm essentially, managing that place.
And what was working for you at that time? You were beating, you told me you had 60 people that were on the floor. What made you differentiate them? What were you doing differently?
Yeah, so I guess it just comes from that your upbringing, right? How you might have seen your parents, or your dad communicate with people. My mom was very good at negotiation, things like that. So I learned a lot. I would go shopping with her, and how things were back in the days. You will negotiate a lot of things when you're purchasing.
Yeah.
It's just little steps like that, right? I think their communication style sort of helped me quite a bit, and with that go-getter sort of my attitude and mindset, I would pick up the phone, and I was just literally doing everything what everyone else I'm hearing was doing in that call center, and I would apply it on a consistent basis and see what's going to stick and what's going to work. So I just sort of, and I realized pretty quickly that I'm just talking to people just like myself, and all their yes, they're having difficulty paying their debt, or there might be in a situation, but it's, if I show them value, why they need to pay off their debt, which is, so they don't have any litigation, they don't have any garnishee orders, or we're not going to, ruin their credit history, right, because that's the ultimate thing which happens. If you don't pay your debt, your credit starts, getting impacted. So if I show them value, communicate it to them, and they'll see it, and then therefore they'll pay the bill. So it was very simple for me, once I understood the whole concept, right, and I started understanding credit bureaus, right, started looking at people's paying habits, things like that, just how the debt is usually accumulated over time, and how it can be mitigated. So that sort of attitude and learning curve gave me an edge over others, and then the work ethic.
And how long were you there doing?
Oh, I was there for quite some time.
Quite some time?
Yeah,
How
many years? I would say like 6-7 years.
So were you,
more?
was it mostly in the beginning you were on the phone constantly?
I was on the phone constantly in the beginning, yes.
Got it. And then, if you don't mind me asking, how much did you make your first year doing debt collection?
At that time, I think I made probably around $70,000-$80,000, right? 20 years ago, or not 20 years ago, I would say probably like 14, 15 years ago, that was a lot of money. I think it would be equivalent to maybe 140, 50K
and what
at that age group.
Yeah, and sorry about that. What were you doing with that money?
So, I mean, maybe I was a spender a little bit in the early days, but I became a saver pretty quickly because I wanted to buy.
What were you spending it on?
I would say, just friends going out in evenings, right? And you do day-to-day stuff, but I wanted to buy a home at the age of 23.
Yeah.
So I started saving pretty quickly because I knew I had to save up for the down payment.
Got it.
And I became as frugal as you can get.
Got it. And then you were there for a couple of years. Last year, what was the most amount of money you made in debt collection?
So debt collection changed over time. That's the reason the company had laid off people right in the end and eventually shut down their door, because a lot of banks, institutions, the government started doing in-house collections. So from that point, we started losing a lot of clients, which were not in our control. Of course, that's something which was taken care by the head office out in Newmarket, Ontario. But I mean, over time, we saw a decline in revenues and things like that.
Got it. And you were talking about your first home. And when did you buy your first home?
I believe I was 23 and some.
And what did you buy?
I bought a detached home. So that was the first time I actually moved from Vancouver to Surrey because, of course, even back then, prices in Vancouver based on, were sky high. And I couldn't afford, I didn't have the down payment. My mortgage probably wasn't going to get approved for a home in Vancouver. So for the first time, I started looking outside Vancouver. Richmond had already gone up. Burnaby had gone up. The market was just starting to pick up in, on this side of Fraser River. And that's where I started looking. I started looking at homes in Delta and Surrey. And I actually narrowed down two homes, one in Delta and one in Surrey. The only difference was the Delta home was slightly bigger but older. and the Surrey home was newer.
Yeah.
And so, the decision came that we want to live in that slightly newer home. It wasn't new. It was still built in the 80s, but it
Yeah.
was newer than it was renovated
Got
than the Delta home.
Do you still own that home?
No,
You sold it.
I sold it.
Give
Yes.
me profits on that. How much did you make and
Oh,
how?
I made quite a bit. I
a bit
made
on
a
it?
chunk on it. I made about, I would say 25-30% profit in a short period of time.
Got it.
Right. In a short period, I would say a couple of years. Right. And I reinvested that money into other things. And yeah.
Did you upgrade the home?
I think, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Where did you go then after that?
From there, I went to White Rock.
White Rock.
Right. Yeah. Things
So-
had changed quite a bit over those 2-3 years. And then actually from there, I went for a short period into a newer townhome. But from that point on, I went, and that was in Surrey as well.
Okay.
But from there, I went directly to White Rock.
So White Rock is the third home.
White Rock is the third home.
Are you still living in that one or?
No, things have moved up from
Things
there.
are moved up.
Yeah.
So you're on your fourth home right now?
You could say so, yeah. And
Fourth home, got it.
and going into the fifth, we'll
Got
see, right, what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
But,
And then now with the $1 billion numbers, when did you start your mortgage career? Give me a brief, behind the scenes. How did it came together? Why did you choose the mortgage industry while you were in the
so-
debt collecting business? How was the change?
There's a very inspiring story. I wanted to buy a home. I look for a mortgage broker. One of them shows up at my house, gives me a pre-approval, and I start looking at homes. Finally, I find a home, write an offer on it, and go back to the same individual, and he tells me that the insurer has turned me down. And the reason he gave me was that, it's funny, but I was in collections, but he told me
Yeah.
4.5 years ago, you had a phone bill which ended up in collections. So I said I paid the bill. It was the last bill. I didn't know. It was only $60, $70. They said, yeah, but you're too young. You're trying to buy a home. You're a risky borrower. And, so all this was information to me, right?
Yeah.
Because he had already given me pre-approval. There was no warnings earlier on. But that's okay. I called the realtor. I tell him this is what happened. He gives me the phone number for one person first. I call them. Communication was an issue with them. Second person I call, gave documents. They were suggesting a private loan based on my income. The affordability wasn't there. And lastly, I had finally given up. So I called the same agent and told him, I don't think I'm going to be able to buy this home. And he tells me that he just spoke with someone last night and about my file, and I should give them a call. And it was the individual he talked about was working at the same bank which had already turned me down, the first individual.
Okay.
Right. So I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah. I gave them all the details, and they said, give me a call. So I called the person, this mortgage specialist.
Yes.
And he was very well-spoken.
Yes.
He laid out the file right over the phone.
Yes.
His communication was key. He educated me. And all he did was he realized that I had about 10% down payment. And all I had to do was come up with another 10% down payment, which was quite significant.
Yeah.
But he asked me a few questions about, my appearance. And eventually he said, all I have to do is get an additional 10% down payment. If I can make that happen, the bank has already approved me, right, and they're going to give me a loan. And he should be able to get. So with that confidence, when he said that, I saw some light at the end of the tunnel. Next thing, I talked to my mom. I was able to get that money from her, and I was buying the same home I had thought, I could no longer, I wasn't going to be able to purchase. And when I met him in person, very professional, well dressed, and and it seemed like a very seamless process where I was, going through a lot of stress the 2 weeks before that. And from that experience, I had sort of set my mind that the day I quit collections, I'm going to go into this mortgage space. And I actually started telling my mom, because my dad had passed away just a little before that. And so I started telling her that I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go into become a mortgage broker. And she kept telling me, do it now than later. But of course, once you take on a mortgage, you have bills to pay and sort of kind of, I was comfortable too, right? And it was kind of like you're making the money, you're paying the bills, you're living the life you want to live for that moment. And it was on the back of my head all those years I was working in collections.
Got it. And then What age did you get your mortgage license and you were, ready to roll working in the
I
mortgage
was, I
industry?
was, I think, 29-ish. Yeah,
29ish.
yeah.
Okay. And then, did you pass your test first time or
Oh,
not?
I passed it
You
first time.
did.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Got it.
I was ready to go.
Yeah.
Like I had just, made my mind. This is it. So I
Yeah.
started, studying. Uh, l- I would say 2-3 weeks prior to the test, I read the whole book. I knew I
Yeah.
was going to ace the test, and I did. Which is, as you know, the test is not that difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you study for it.
if you study for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I failed by 1 mark first
Oh
time.
my goodness. Yeah.
That's why I'm asking you.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, that's especially by 1 mark. That's
Yeah.
very super unlucky. But I mean, it happens, right? I read the book.
Yeah.
I literally dedicated because I knew this is the industry I'm going in. I had already set my mind into
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And, as realtors and mortgage brokers, we study a lot for our test. First day on the job, there's nothing working what you read from the book. The industry is totally different. You don't know what to do. You feel like you're a lost person in the ocean. And how did you navigate your way through it your first year? What were you doing in the beginning?
I did the exact same thing I did in my previous role, which was, listening, hearing, and doing exactly what others are doing.
Yeah.
And I always say this now too, that you don't have to invent the wheel. Just see what others are doing, and you can make modifications along the way,
Yeah.
right? But if you told me that, hey, I know so and so,
Yeah.
and let's say you're interviewing me and you're talking about a lot of successful people,
Yeah.
and you're telling me that so and so uh, does door knocking,
Yeah.
or he has a code. If your phone is not ringing, make other people's phone ring.
Yeah.
I literally applied that on my daily routine. That's all I did.
So you
Yeah.
did go door knocking.
I did go door
So what were
knocking.
you saying to people like door knocking?
It was actually very super easy. If and you'll be surprised if you're. And this is what I did, right? So I would drive around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'll see a home with a for sale sign, and I realize these people have a need because, of course, they're upgrading or downgrading their home, so they need a mortgage.
Yeah.
And I knock on the door. I'm in a well-dressed suit, and let's say this lady or a guy opens up the door. I'll say, "Hey, my name's Asim. I live in the area." So the moment I tell them I live in the area, I was able to build trust,
Yeah.
right? And I'll just simply tell them I saw the for sale sign, and I thought, I knock on your door, and they'll say, yeah, our open house is this weekend, or it happened last weekend. I said, oh, okay, fair enough, but yeah, I will sell. I'm a mortgage broker. I'll do an introduction, so I'll let them know who I am. And they say, oh, you're a mortgage broker. I was like, yeah, exactly. And I thought I'd knock on your door, see if there's something I can do.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy conversations. You're just
Yeah.
talking to people, right? And I actually picked up applications from it.
You did.
Yeah, and I knocked on a couple of realtors' doors too, and they're still working with me till this date.
Wow. And then you door knocked for how long to get your first deal?
Oh, I think I had about 6 to 7 deals in my first couple of weeks when I came into the industry. Did they all got done? No, of course. I had to learn underwriting, so there was a lot of failure,
Yeah.
right? But I picked up business right, left, and center.
What do you think the average number is? Let's say we're door knocking. How many doors, how many conversations we had to do before we get one good lead?
Yeah, so there's, these metrics out there, right? If you knock on 100 doors, maybe 15 people will be willing to talk out of 15. If you end up closing 4, which is actually an amazing number, if you tell me, because it's nothing personal. The moment you take things personally in business, you're not going to grow, right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people often tell me, oh, what if someone closed the door on you? So what? Move on to the next one,
Yeah.
right? They don't wanna do business with you. That's okay, or they don't have a need for you.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't go. I think where I probably was looked at differently, I knocked on doors where people had a need. They had a for sale sign outside.
Okay.
I didn't knock on random doors.
Yeah.
So that's a huge difference.
Yeah. Got it.
And
Then-
that's where my funding ratios would be so high. If I knock on 5 doors,
Yeah.
I might end up picking up 3 or 4 applications out of it, or at least
Yeah.
if an agent in the house, then I'm closing the agent, right?
Yeah,
So
that makes sense. And then let's say you're 6 months in your mortgage industry. What was your day looking like?
Oh my goodness.
Give me a brief day in your life, first 6 months.
So I would wake up around 6:30 a.m., right? Go for a jog, go to the gym, come home, get ready, and I'm out the door by 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m.
Yeah.
In the early days, I didn't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I literally go through, like, I know I'm going to hustle. So it's either I'm going to door knock or I'm going to start dialing numbers off, start calling my colleagues, coworkers, friends, family, people on my Facebook list, Instagram list, right? Reach out to them, go to my brokerage, call some lenders, trying to, do some lender meetings, learn the underwriting side of the world. So that was just right in the beginning. As I moved along, of course, a lot of files were being picked up.
Yeah.
And now the shift had, from sourcing business, it has shifted completely to underwriting.
Yeah.
And I realized for a mortgage broker, that's where the key difference is. It's not just sales. Sales is only 10, 20% of the business. It's actually 80% is knowing the business, how to structure the files, which lenders to go to, because there's timeline constraints, all that sort of stuff, right? So a file could have 50 different moving parts. So I would spend a lot of time reading through lender policies, making phone calls, doing BDM meetings, all that sort of stuff.
How many deals you did your first year?
I believe I did volume deals wise. I think it was close to 60 or 50 something. I don't know the exact number, but volume I think I did over 35 million or close to that number.
Over 35 million.
Yeah.
And what year is that?
Long enough. It was a long time ago.
So first year you're doing $35 million and 50 to 60 deals.
Right.
How come?
Like I said, I think because I had worked in the collections.
Yeah.
And I had worked on the phone. I had worked with people. I wasn't afraid to, reach out to strangers. I wasn't afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I was picking up a lot of business.
Okay.
Right? Because when you're not afraid of rejection, then people, I guess, often see that. Realtors would see that. Accountants would see that. Lawyers will see that. So sort of, the business was flowing in. And I never had an issue on that end. So it was just learning underwriting, essentially, right? So the business would keep on coming. I'll build on strong relationships with people within that one meeting or two meetings, and by doing follow-ups and stuff like that, right? So I'll become friends with them, and people will refer people even if they don't need a mortgage. I started realizing that even in the early days. Let's say you're a homeowner, but you don't need me today, but you refer a friend, family member, colleague, your someone in your circle, which will come my way.
Where was your chunk of your business coming from in the beginning, first year?
I think it was all over, to be honest with you, right? Like, a lot of it, I would say, probably was being sourced from realtors.
Okay.
But, there were some friends and family as well that they started seeing I'm doing extremely well, who started supporting me because they knew that, I'm not going to let them down or their friends down, essentially. Like, I'm going to take care of them.
Yeah.
Right? Because, when you give someone's number, right, you look at a criteria. If you ask me, hey, Asim, do you know a lawyer?
Yeah.
And if I don't know a good, let's say it's an injury-related lawyer, I'm not probably going to give you a number. If even my cousin's a lawyer or my friend is a lawyer, but he's not at top of his game, and I feel like you call him and his services, his communication is poor, his knowledge is not there, and he's not going to take care of you, I probably will be reluctant to even give out a phone number of a family member. But the moment I believe in them, then, I will even go above and beyond to tell people that, hey, by the way, I feel proud that my cousin or relative or friend, he's a, injury lawyer. And if anybody needs his services, they can call him, right? So, yeah.
So in the beginning, were you solo from the beginning, or you had any mentor that was training you?
No, I was solo. But again, I would call and I say, stay in touch with your industry peers. And I would listen to, there's a lot of education online these days, right? Like there's podcasts, things like that. You can hear realtors, mortgage brokers you can hear Mark Cuban. You can go listen to Warren Buffett. All that information is out there. It's your job to go take an hour in a day. Most importantly, listen to it. But more than even listening, apply it. Right? Because that's where the execution is, where the issue is. We see a lot of people watch content, consume content all day long, but they have no application of that content in their daily lives. So it's I don't know, what's the point even paying attention to that content if you're not even going to apply something? And sometimes people will start watching all sorts of content.
Yeah.
So break it down based on your industry type,
Yeah.
and then apply that. It may not work for you, but
Yeah.
that's okay. But at least you're doing something. You're building some habits, and and if it didn't work out for you, maybe you're too new or you're too inexperienced, right? Or for whatever other reasons, or maybe it's just not your type, right? But listen to your industry peers, and watch, hear that content, and apply it in your life. So that's what I was doing.
So first year, how much were you making? I mean, assuming you did 35 million, even we say 1%, you're making well over $300,000.
Sure.
And what were you doing? Well, when you make this much money, obviously you get super
Reinvest.
Reinvest is one part. You
Yeah.
get super excited. What was you would say, the dumbest purchase you made when the first check hit?
I honestly didn't make a dumbest purchase.
Yeah.
I think all my purchases. Maybe the dumbest purchase I might have made was purchase a luxury car recently, about a year ago, right? That I would call, but I wouldn't even call that a dumbest purchase.
Yeah.
Because, and the reason I'm saying that is, right, of course, we all make money to,
Yeah.
enjoy life. And
Yeah.
if you can't, if you're too frugal and
Yeah.
all you do is save up all your money and
Yeah.
you have this bank accounts,
Yeah.
you're not going to take them to your grave. So
Yeah.
I don't see a point of that either,
Yeah.
right? But you have to find a balance in
Yeah.
life. I was very good with even the first car I bought, which was a luxury car. I sometimes joke that when I bought the car, I could have bought it with just one paycheck, right? So which was the reality at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And first year, what car were you driving?
I think I had like a Lexus or something. And
Lexus?
yeah, yeah.
What Lexus?
I was RX 350.
RX
something like
350, got it.
Yeah.
And what were you spending your money on? I'm very curious.
I currently, are you asking?
No, not right now. First
Right.
year.
In buying properties.
Buying properties.
Yeah.
And first year, how many properties did you buy?
A lot by now. I don't recall. I think I bought a couple.
Couple.
Yeah.
And then how was second year like?
Oh, it blew up. I did over 100 million volume, and that's where I sort of kind of know I'm going to make it.
$100 million. Were you solo at the time? Or?
No, I wasn't solo. 3 months in, I had someone reach out to me, and
Yeah.
they knew they had a friend who had just passed their exam, and they were wanting to come into the industry. His name was Nav Grewal.
Yeah.
So I got him set up with my brokerage,
Yeah.
but he ended up leaving the industry a month later. But I had known Nav extremely well. I knew he was trustworthy. We work well. He's very humble, kind. So I actually ended up hiring him 4 months into the industry,
Yeah.
as my underwriter.
Got it.
And Nav is, I just saw Nav earlier today. So yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then after that, second year, you blew up $100 million. What was your biggest deal second year?
I think there was a $6 million or $5 million mortgage, $6 million or something.
Was that
like
residential?
It was residential, yeah.
Was your chunk of your business residential or
It is residential. Now, of course, we get a mix of business. We do a lot of commercial now,
Yeah.
right? But in the early days, it was predominantly residential.
And 2022, how much volume did you do?
2022, we did about 250 million on the AN alternative space, and about through 7 lending, my team did about another 50, 60 million. So I would say in 2022, somewhere around 300 and about 300 million.
How you feel about that number?
I think, my next target is 500. So once I
Yeah.
reach that target, I probably might feel better. But
Yeah.
for now, it's no different than
Yeah.
doing 33 million or 35 million my first
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
Give me, what was your biggest deal and where did it come from? How did it came together?
I think I've done a lot of big deals now. I honestly don't even recall what's
Give me
the
one
biggest
big.
one. I can shift my focus completely towards commercial because I
Yeah.
know a lot of clients who are in that space.
Yeah.
$10, $15 million doesn't do much for me anymore. So
Yeah.
I need a $50 to $100 million deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I shift my focus towards commercial solely, it's very, those deals are there and I know how to structure them, put them
Yeah.
together. But just because I haven't put my focus there, I will sometimes, if I see a very large deal, I'll refer it out.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what was the, in your beginning years, what was like one big deal that came to you, you were blown away and you got super excited? You always remember that, right? One big deal.
I think you always remember your first 2-3 clients.
First 2-3 clients, yeah.
Right, regardless of the size of those deals.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember those deals very vividly. Some of them were small, but because they were my very first deal, I
Yeah.
remember my first deal. I picked it up about a week and a half, 2 weeks after, but it
Yeah.
was funding because there was a purchase of funding about
Yeah.
2 months later. I remember the day the client was going and signing in the documents
Yeah.
at the lawyer. I even know when they went to the lawyer's office.
Yeah.
And now I don't know which day, how many completions we're doing.
Yeah.
Like it just, but yeah, those were the deals which I was super excited about.
Yeah.
Right. It was, there was another deal I was doing on the alternative side for a self-employed borrower.
Yeah.
There was a third private deal.
Yeah.
So those are the deals which sort of, I still remember everything about them till this
Got
day.
it. And
Yeah.
what are you focusing your shift on right now?
Right now, we're seeing a huge shift in the market at the
Yeah.
moment because of the interest rate hikes. We're seeing a huge shift in the alt space,
Yeah.
where we are seeing a lot of self-employed borrowers coming through the door, people who have equity in their homes but
Yeah.
don't want to break their existing mortgages but want to pull out equity.
Yeah.
So we're doing, we have a line of credit, home equity line of credit product,
Yeah.
which, even if they're not, we can go into stated income programs where
Yeah.
we can state their income. That is immense at the moment. And the second, we're seeing, people upgrading.
Yeah.
Investors are not, as you know, in the market as they were because of the rates being high and
Yeah.
rents being low, but
Yeah.
that's going to shift pretty quickly. Today we all heard BOC did an increased rate, so that's good news for the market, and we'll see where
October
it goes.
25th, 2023. No rate hikes.
No rate hikes,
Yeah.
yes.
And what do you think, where are we heading?
I think we're heading in the right direction. If you're, and I was saying it earlier today that by the end of this year, we're out of the dark tunnel or close to being out of the dark tunnel of rate
Yeah.
hikes. Next year, where most economists you talk to or you look up, most analysts from different banks are predicting that we're going to see rate drops in spring, summer, or some are saying in fall. But there's a consensus among the industry that we're going to start seeing rate drops next year.
Got it. And then you had a Lexus, you said. After that, what car did you buy?
I think from a Lexus, I bought another Lexus.
Okay.
And I guess you want to know the whole
Yeah,
sort of trajectory.
yeah, we want to go into cars.
Right.
See, what was after Lexus? What was the big brand car you bought? The first
I
one?
think it was a Range Rover I purchased after a few years being into the business,
Yeah.
right? That was my first purchase. Then I bought an Aventador. Then I bought a Rolls Royce.
Way to go back.
Yeah.
Way to go back.
And
Oh,
I have a Fat Boy right now. I just
Yeah.
picked up this year. So, just little
why
toys
did
like
you
that.
choose Aventador, and when did you choose to buy an Aventador?
Yeah, so I guess, that comes with sometimes just having too much liquidity.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. But I guess, most kids' dream is when they're growing up,
Yeah.
they have 2 or 3 cars, and
Yeah.
mine was these 3, which
Yeah.
I own them. So, yeah.
How much was the Lamborghini Aventador?
I was over $500,000.
Over $500,000.
Yeah.
And after that, first day driving, how were you feeling?
Oh, my goodness. The thrill that car gives is just like on another level. Yeah.
Then, yeah,
I
after,
can't express with words.
Yeah, after that, what was the second luxury car you bought?
Rolls Royce. It
Which-
was a third one, but yeah.
What was the second one?
Well, first I bought a Range Rover,
Yeah.
right? It was, I don't know, you consider it, it's not a supercar. It's just now you see too many out there. So
Yeah.
it's, then I bought an Aventador, and the third one I bought a Rolls Royce Phantom.
What made you buy a Rolls Royce Phantom?
I guess, once you have Rolls Royce, there's nothing left, right? There's
Yeah.
Bugattis and stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know, right? So those are just a brand I knew as a child growing up.
Yeah.
My friends would talk about it, and it just kind of stuck in my head that one day I hope and wish, or who are these people who buy
Yeah.
these cars? Yeah.
Any new cars coming?
Yeah, there's one in the pipeline.
Which
Yes.
one is it?
The new replacement of Aventador,
You are
Revolto.
Revolto.
Yeah.
Have you spec'd it already, or
I did, yes.
when is it coming?
They haven't given a timeline, but by the looks of it, it might be another year.
Another year.
Yeah,
Got
because
it.
they just launched it, and now they're, nobody's got their hands on it yet.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
I saw your post. You were on the launch.
I was at the
How'd you
launch.
like
Yes, yeah, it was lovely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's great networking, right?
It is a great networking
Yeah.
event. Yeah, I
See
know
the-
quite a lot of people there, so
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
seeing them again. Yeah,
Asim, I've got some TikTok questions for you.
sure.
You can answer it in one line or one sentence, whatever you like. What is the secret sauce to become a multimillionaire?
There's no secret sauce. You gotta grind each and every day. You gotta wake up, suit up, get out of your home. There's no way around it.
What does success means to Asim Ali?
Success means having a business where you can go away, and you can go away with your family, go on a vacation, whatever that may looks like, and your business runs just the way it was running when you were there.
Got it. I've got a hypothetical scenario. Before becoming a mortgage broker, if you had $2 million in your bank account, what would you have done differently?
I would have invested in real estate. I would have bought a lot of rental properties,
Yeah.
right? Or I would have bought as many as I could, and I would try to make an income stream from those rental properties.
And what do people misunderstand about you the most?
That I wouldn't say they misunderstand. Sometimes I am way too kind,
Yeah.
but of course, there's a limit to it, and
Yeah.
they don't want to see my other side. I hope they don't. So yeah, I don't know if it's a misunderstanding, but
Another one. If the old you could see the new you, what would the new you say to yourself?
why didn't you start early?
That's everyone, right? I've heard this
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Yeah.
Any motivational quotes you have that you remind yourself day to day, or
There's one too many, and they come and go. But nothing I can think of off the top of my head.
who do you think is the most powerful man on this planet?
Most powerful men. Oh, it could be an American president. Could be, but I don't know if they're any longer the powerful people. It could be someone who has control on information.
Got it.
Yeah, and there's a few guys in that list.
Any last words you want to say? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, as I was mentioning earlier,
Yeah.
message for new brokers, right? People entering the space or people who are already in the space, that your industry peers and your brokerage is your best friend. If you're in the right setup,
Yeah.
right, for a mortgage broker or realtor, you will have a platform to grow and do well. So, just make sure that you're in the right setup. Then hopefully you have a mentor or a coach.
Yeah.
And next thing, you have the ability to listen to the coach. That's the most
Are
important.
you expanding your team?
We are, yes. We have gone, have done a merger with a big brokerage on the East Coast.
Yep.
So right now we're licensed in 5 provinces.
Yep.
And we've expanded to a collective team of over 100 brokers.
Yep.
And we're with our parent company called AIMI Financial.
Yep.
So that's in progress, and that's going to be launched in about 2 weeks' time.
Got it. And how can people reach out to you?
Give us a call, 604-591-3590, or send us an email.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. This was Asim Ali, $1 billion mortgage broker, and this is your host, Rashid Veer Singh. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Rashid.
Yeah, thank you.